Wait, just one second.
Regular meeting to order for City Council regular meeting agenda Thursday, May 8th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Roll call please.
Councilmember Bradford. Here. Councilmember Molina.
Here.
Councilmember Cornish.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nunn.
Here.
Mayor Amaruso.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And everyone stand for pledge please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The approval of City Council regular meeting agenda of May 8th, 2025. I think there's a.
On item 7.1, I just want to advise the council that recommendation number 2 is not going to be asked to be done tonight, initiating the Proposition 218 process. Only items 1 and 3, receiving the presentation and setting the date for the public hearing, is being asked to be done tonight.
So no 7.2.
Yes, 7.2.
7.1.
Yes, 7.1, number 2.
Oh, number 2, sorry, my bad. We first approval City Council regular meeting agenda of May 8th, 2025 with that change.
I'd like to move to approve the city council regular meeting agenda with the amendments.
Second.
Councilmember Bradford. Aye. Councilmember Molina.
Aye.
Councilmember Cornish.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nunn.
Aye.
Mayor Amaruso.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And I'm going to open up public comment. This is for anyone that wants to speak on anything that's not on our agenda tonight. I'll start with, we have some people already. And if you look, say one thing.
I was talking with Vicky and Dan about this. Make sure everybody knows that there's been I've got a lot of complaints, people can't hear us at home, apparently we have to have a mouse right here. We're talking, so. Trying to remind everyone, we gotta do that.
Yeah. All right. So first person I'm going to ask to come up is Rosemary Rainey.
Good evening, Rosemary and Robert Lady here for Plymouth. We're concerned, we've been here many times, new faces, some old faces, regarding the traffic situation on Main Street. We have 2 schools, the Montessori and the elementary school, and there is not one school zone sign on Main Street. Why is that? That's my first question. The other question, the other problem is the speed that people are going through town. I'm recently retired, as you all know, so I'm out and about a lot. I have a grandson that goes to Montessori, so I walk him to school, I pick him up from school, and I can't tell you how many times people ran through the stop sign or turned left onto School Street or Sherwood Street in front of us while we're in the crosswalk. Not even stopping at the stop sign, just turn right in front of us. And when the kids get out of school at Montessori, they're trying to get to their vehicles, people do not slow down. It's crazy, it's just crazy. And we're really concerned because, we were assured with this new safe route to school that went in several years ago, that would solve this issue, but it has made it worse because in the old days, we had on-street parking. So all of our on-street parking was taken away when they put that safe route to school. And now people speed through because they can see all the way down. At least when cars were there, people go a little slower because you didn't know someone was going to come in between them. They run the stop sign all the time.
Oh, I know.
I
I want you to.
Councilman Nunn, has to see it a lot. So we have a lot of issues about that right there, because someone's gonna get hit. I almost got hit on a Wednesday evening. I was going across the crosswalk at my house. Car was coming into town. I had plenty of time, because they should have been going 25. I had my dog with me. I stepped out about 3 steps. That car zoomed past me. I could have touched it as fast as he went by me. And I yelled, "Hey," and they just kept going and went right through the stop sign up through Main Street. And these aren't out of town people. There are a lot of locals that do that.
So one of the maintenance guys brought the speed limit sign, the flashing.
Yeah.
And they put it downtown here, facing my house. So as they go out of town, they can see how fast they're going. The speed limit averaged from 38 to 53 miles an hour down in front of my house. I got pictures.
So we are here again with the concern, because we don't want a kid to get hit on Main Street. Because a lot of kids, even though the sidewalk's on the opposite side of our side, a lot of kids walk up our side of the road and cross right in front of our house. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Margaret, would it be possible to contact the sheriff's department and let them know that we need a little more?
That's a CHP issue.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
either way.
In the city limits, so it's, yeah.
I did some research and found out that if there's a school zone, the speeding ticket is ×3.
Well, I think that even if it's sheriff's department.
Yeah.
If there's a presence of police, people slow down.
Right, so you can even have, they're at random.
Yeah.
Say a couple of potholders. But I'd say, since I am right there at that intersection, I do see in the mornings when school's going, they are often a deputy backed up on Gunter watching, and sometimes he's backed up on A Street watching. The problem is the rest of the day. And I mean, I've had the CHP down there before watch it, and they said, well, when we're sitting there, nothing's happening. And it's the time of day, plus they're sitting too close out on the end, so people can see them. But I would just say for people out there, every time you have a close call like that, maybe just call the sheriff's office and complain. And if enough people are doing it, if enough people are calling in, perhaps it'll get them there at those times of the day a little bit more often. Because I mean, we've told them that much more we can do, we call them too, but.
Is there a reason we don't have a school zone sign on Main Street?
I thought there used to be one down there.
Did someone steal it or something?
I'm not sure why there's not a sign. I know we just ordered signs and they came in. I'm not sure if we ordered them for Main Street. I'll double check it in the morning.
And if not, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy fix. So, yeah, no, it's been a historic problem. I mean, even when Dean was calling Montessori, it was a problem back then. It's not a thing. And yeah, we put a stop sign at Church Street and the bump out here in front, try and break it up some, but it has to slow down. I mean, yeah, I sit on my mom's front porch and watch them blow through there. They lock their elbows and we got it.
So I took pictures, my Hispanic neighbor, his kids just left the street. And the guy was 42 miles an hour right past, and that was right after school.
We have them walking in the road down below town because all sidewalks are. So
Which should be, that's the next safe also.
So, okay, so next person is Lori Wick.
Good evening, my name is Lori Wood.
Can you come in closer to the,
yeah, get the microphone right up to you.
Okay,
thank you.
there. My name is Lori Wood. I'm speaking on behalf of my husband, Greg Wood. Greg worked for the city of Plymouth for 15 years. He was the chief sewer plant operator. It's a shame you're getting rid of all veteran employees and hiring relatives.
Our son was told when he applied for a job that they don't hire relatives. It clearly states, page 3, paragraph 2.03 of the handbook, that no relatives of employees will be hired. It's a conflict of interest and it's unethical. In December of 2022, Greg retired. They got a cost of living raise from July to December. When Greg asked Margaret about it, she said he wasn't entitled to it. Well, he worked that 5 months, so why wouldn't he be entitled to it? He would still like to receive that money if he could. Greg gave the city a year's notice that he would be retiring to give them plenty of time to hire a new operator. Well, 2.5 years later, the water agency is still overseeing the plant, and it's a cost to you all. The city could have saved a lot of money had they hired an operator. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Curtis Control. I should have brought these, give these up. Oh, I got on early.
Okay, it's okay.
Just give me a time. It's up.
And I prepared, I wanted to ask if I could please have 4 minutes.
That's it.
Okay.
You give that to one, you give it to.
If I give it to one, I have to give it to all.
We'd love if you go.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Just try and go as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and fellow residents. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Curtis Campbell, resident and former employee. I'm here to share something very troubling, my wrongful termination from the city of Plymouth. On February 11th, at 3 p.m., I was called into city manager Robin's office. When I walked in, she told me without warning that my relationship with the city of Plymouth was ended. And every paper to sign, instructed me to turn in my keys, my jacket, and all city property. I was completely caught off guard, felt lightheaded and sick to my stomach and emotionally overwhelmed. I could not believe what I was hearing. When I asked why I was being terminated, she told me I had caused a big disturbance and had a habit of not following directions. I was stunned. I told her that is absolutely not true. She brought up two specific claims. First, I had sprayed an area at Veterans Park where I was told not to. I explained clearly that I informed Matt where I was spraying, and he said it's fine as long as I avoided the middle of the ditch. The spray report that I have attached shows that I complied fully with Matt's instructions and did not spray the contested area. Then she accused me of spraying the roses at the cemetery. Again, I told her I would never spray the roses at the cemetery. On May 2nd, 2025, I sent pictures of the roses to Robin's group and the roses were never sprayed. What's clear to me is that these false allegations were driven by false information specifically coming from one individual. Shameless. This individual also created a crisis back in November when he falsely claimed I was talking about going on strike. That comment stemmed from a casual conversation between me, Mark, and Shamus about another town, Rancho Marietta, where employees were going on strike for the cost of living concerns. That's all that was said. Yet Shamus took it to city manager Margaret, told her I was discussing a strike, which triggered an investigation. Kathleen called me into questioning. She warned me if I lied about anything, I'd be fired at the spot. I told her the truth. I never talked about us going on strike. Kathleen later told me that she never seen Margaret so mad in all her time working here. For 4 days, Mark and I were terrified to lose our jobs over something we never did. That is now 2 serious situations created by one individual, Shamus, who just happens to be HR's son. That made it impossible to turn to HR for a fair or impartial solution. Even though the city operates as an ethical employer, no one should be dismissed on false allegations, especially without being given the chance to defend themselves or present evidence. I was never treating people like Manager Roberts. What happened to me was not only unfair, it was deeply unjust. Furthermore, adding to the injustice, the city manager tonight My claims were unemployment benefits labeled my conduct as misconduct without any evidence. This has not only affected me financially, but has unjustly tarnished my professional reputation, adding insult to injury. I took great pride in maintaining the city grounds and was never disregarded orders intentionally. I later learned my position was not published to the public, but paved the way for the hiring of another individual related to HR Summit. Suggesting a concerning pattern of young or less qualified members. Employees labeled as a lead supervisor, which now makes 6 family members hired by the city manager within the city workforce. This undermines fairness within city employment. I believe the mayor and the city council and residents deserve to know the truth behind my dismissal. It is vital for the mayor, the council, and residents to be aware of these unjust practices within the city's management. Transparency, honesty, and fairness should be the cornerstone of the community's governance. It is essential that such decisions impacting workers and their families do not continue unnoticed. Additionally, I have numerous residents recognize my dedicated service to the city of Plymouth, making a noticeable difference, including board mayor Marion Ackerlin. I have also saved the city thousands of dollars by repairing the entire irrigation system at Tippecanoe Ridge. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wanted to read it, Kenny Gomes by email submitted a the public comment, so I'll have that. Now, the rest of the room. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak on anything not to do with the? Okay, seeing that, I'll close. Yes.
You turn off that mic. Thank you.
So then we're going to number 4, proclamation, business proclamations, 4.1, considering appointment of a council member as an alternate member to the ACRA board.
So I'm the current council member to the ACRA board. And there's been a handful of conflicts. So essentially, conflicts for scheduling, let me make that clear. So, for example, there was to be a meeting in April that I was set to attend, and then they rescheduled it for another date. And I wasn't able to attend that day because I was attending a class, and it just seems like every month this is coming up and it's at 1 p.m. I need an alternate for this because to date, I haven't been able to attend it, and on the one that's coming up on May 14th, I'm gonna be in Danville all day for work. So again, I won't be able to be there. It's at 1 p.m. in the middle of the day.
And it's always a Wednesday?
It's always a Wednesday and it's once a month. I don't know if it's an option for us to not be board members, but attend when we can.
It's how it's done in the past.
Well, I'm a board member.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I was.
So- yeah, it's a little more than I expected. I thought we would just be in attendance to get information. But no, I'm on the board of directors, so I need a alternate.
But yeah, I was actually wondering when I was reading about this, does it have to be a council member? Can it be someone else, a city employee or I mean, maybe they don't have voting, right? I don't know how that works. Maybe our attorney can tell us, or if there was a member. If the only member of the public that wanted to do it for the city, is that acceptable?
I don't need someone to do it all the time. I just need somebody to step in when I can't be there. So like this Wednesday, I can't be there, the one that's coming up.
We have to look at their bylaws to see whether they allow anything else that the city staff or somebody else to.
Yeah, I'd like maybe do that, because I think that originally I had offered to be a alternate on this, and we were told the meetings were in the evening, and then all of a sudden, after it changed it to daytime, and most of us work during the day, I know that it became older, and for us to get away and do it, so I'd like to maybe look into something, and as far as the meeting on the 14th, can we just maybe see if there's somebody here that can take it? It'd be pretty difficult for me, I don't know, if you take Peter or Rusty, if that meeting can be figured out.
Yeah.
The two committees I sit on, keep me pretty top.
Well,
We
almost have,
worked out, I didn't be permanent, but for the meeting coming out, we can figure out something for the 14th right now, just to do that, whether it's a city employee or one of the members. And then
Can you
we'll
look at that?
figure it out.
Get a little accuracy if that's an option.
I just need somebody that's, I just feel bad I haven't been there, so it seems like I was slated to go in April and then they changed the date of it and then I couldn't attend.
What happens? Or they don't get a quorum.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
Yeah, they didn't have a quorum because they changed the date. And then they had an impromptu meeting on May 1st that we weren't alerted to until pretty close to May 1st. I wasn't able to attend that. So anyway.
Thank you. So 4.2, appointment to have vacant planning commission seat filled. So this is for Mr. Rusty.
Yeah, each council member, well, we're tasked to fill in the planning commission. I reached out to several people, I believe Margaret even put it out, right, too. And there would been the city put this out. We've had one person show interest and she's willing to accept it. She's not here right now. They're currently on vacation, but it's Mary Ann Ackerman. Is who I nominated or talked with about being appointed planning commission. I don't know what's the official way to do this, but I was talking to her tonight and she's still willing to do this. So I would say that would be my appointment to the planning commission, if that's all that's needed.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Rusty. Okay, number 5, consent calendar. So basically, for approval of the consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar items.
So okay.
Councilmember Crabtree.
Aye.
Councilmember Felina.
Aye.
Councilmember Cornish.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nunn.
Aye.
Mayor Amaruso.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you. Now we're gonna go into public 6, public hearings, none. 7 is regular agenda items. 7.1, presentation on water and wastewater rate study and requesting input and direction to do Prop 218 rate settings.
So tonight we have with us Sarah Maris from NDS, and we've been working with NDS for a while to get the water and sewer rate study to this point. We don't have a draft of the sewer rate study because we can't get a draft yet until we get council direction to draft a rate study. We have a PowerPoint that Sarah's gonna go through with the council to give you the data that they put together based on the information that they gotten from staff to get to the point where we are today. And so I'm going to turn the presentation over to Sarah, and then she'll answer any questions that you have, and we'll go from there.
Good evening, everyone. Apparently I know how to clear a room. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. We will go through kind of an overview of what the rate study is. I know this isn't something that you do all the time, and it is highly governed by Proposition 218. And so we'll talk about the process a little bit, and then we'll dig into the preliminary results that we've come up with, and then we're going to be looking for some direction from you. So next slide, please. Alright, so the rate study purpose and methodology, the reason we have to go through this process is because we are required to comply with Proposition 218, which was approved by voters in 1996. That is Article 13D of California's Constitution. In general, water and sewer rate studies are prepared every 5 years so that you have very good financial data going into your plan. You have current operation and maintenance, you understand your capital improvement projects, that sort of thing. That's the recommendation. And we really want to make sure that we're demonstrating the fairness and equity of customer rates, but more importantly, to be in compliance with Proposition 218, the rates have to be based on the cost of service. And so doing that study every 5 years gives you that information. The rate study is comprised of kind of 3 components or 3 steps. The first of those is the financial plan, where we are determining the revenue requirement. And that is kind of what you probably think it is, where you're looking at your current rate or your current revenues and your planned expenditures, right? So it's a budgeting process essentially to figure out where you are short or how much you are short. So then we know what the increase to rates needs to be. The cost of service analysis is how we are proportionately allocating those costs to the various customer classes and making sure that we're in compliance with industry standards and state law. And rate design finally considers what is the final rate structure that we're going with. You might be familiar, you can have fixed components, variable or volumetric components, that sort of thing. And so the rate design is how we come up with those answers. So we'll dive a little bit more into each of those components here on the next couple of slides. So the financial plan. What we're trying to do here is get to that net revenue requirement. So we're looking at O&M or operation and maintenance costs, any debt service that you might have, any capital expenditures that you might be foreseeing, minus any non-rate revenues. If you have, interest earnings on funds or, anything of that nature, we would subtract that out to determine what your net revenue requirement is. And once we determine what that net revenue requirement is, we also are considering your level of reserves. That's really important for your utilities because there's always going to be unexpected things. There could be new laws about treatment or, different things. And so really, just like in your personal budget at home, it's always good to have your rainy day fund. So we're looking at that as well. Next slide. I love this bucket analogy because this is how I think of it, where we have utility revenue coming into your enterprise fund. So that's your rate revenue. And that money flows first into your operation and maintenance bucket. That's like your everyday expenses, the things that you're paying for on a regular basis to provide the utility service. And from there, money can flow into the capital reserves bucket. So then we're able to build up funds in order to pay for future capital projects. And once money is left over from there, then we can put money into rate funded capital, other expenditures, or perhaps other reserves. So the money sort of flows through the system in that order. Again, kind of in the same way as your personal budget. You're going to be paying for your everyday expenses. You might put some money aside to save up for that new washer and dryer or a car or whatever else that you're looking at. From there, when we get to the cost of service, we are then allocating costs based on the cost to serve each type of customer. So we're looking at all of the water costs and classifying them in terms of whether they are costs related to capacity in the system or just sort of your system costs. Commodity costs, which is related to the actual provision. So in water, a water-based study, the commodity cost is the actual water. And then customer costs, which are things like your billing charges. How much does it cost to actually operate that utility from that perspective is serve your customers. And we take those costs and we allocate them first to those classifications of system, capacity, commodity, and customer, excuse me, and then we allocate them to each customer class. So they residential, non-residential, et cetera. Next slide. The sewer costs, we're looking at, it's a very similar analysis, but we're looking at things a little bit differently. In terms of how sewer costs are assigned to customers, we're looking at flow related costs. We're looking at effluent strength related costs, and we look at that in terms of biological oxygen demand and total suspended solids. We're talking about sewer, total suspended solids is exactly what you think it is. We won't go into too much more detail there. And then customer costs, again, is that kind of billing and charging your customers. And here we're looking at the same thing where we are allocating then those costs to the various customer classes as well. And then we get to our rate design. And we have several objectives when we're looking at rate design. We're going to ensure that rates are proportional to the cost of service or the cost to serve each customer class. There have been a few lawsuits around rate setting, even more just in the last year or so. A couple of new cases have come that really help us understand further what Proposition 218 is telling us to do in terms of how we're setting rates. And that has to do with things like how we might set tiered rates, all of those basic rate setting principles. And so we are very much aware of all of those court cases as we are doing the rate design and all of this analysis so that we are in compliant with all of those rules. And there were actually three new laws that came into effect in January of this year that also affect rate setting, one of which provides a lot of protections for you as a public agency in terms of challenge to your rates. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We also want to make sure that your rates are equitable, that they're easy to administer and understand. We don't want something so complex that no one can ever figure out what their bill might be. And we want to provide revenue stability as well. It's really important that you have stability as you have that revenue coming in to pay for your costs. And now we'll dive in a little bit more deeply into the water rate study overview. Again, purpose of the water rate study is to ensure the rates are able to cover the operating and maintenance costs. We want to ensure that we have sufficient funding for capital improvements. We want to maintain appropriate reserve funds, and of course, we want to be in compliance with all of the legal requirements. So on the water rate utility, we have the financial plan summary, and I know for folks in the audience, that's going to be a little bit difficult to read up there on the screen. So I'll talk through it just a little bit to say that, the financial plan really is the culmination of all of your financial data. So we're looking at current rate revenue, we're looking at wholesale water sales, interest earnings, those are your sources of funds. And then we're looking at the uses of funds. So operating expenses, debt service, and rate funding capital expenditures are the categories that we're looking at. So we compare those two things to understand before we look at a rate increase for the utility, what is that surplus or deficit? And on the first gray line on the graph, and just in case folks can't read it, that is negative across the board, starting in 24-25 this year and on into the next 5-year period. In order to fix that issue or address that deficit, we then are setting the rates. And so the rates that we're setting bring in additional revenue from the rate increases that are being applied. And then we start to address that deficiency. So the second gray line on the chart has the amount of surplus or deficiency after the rate increase. And you can see that starting in 25-26, we then do not have a deficiency, but we have a surplus. So that's where we're able to start having money flow into some of those reserve funds and be able to pay for some of those additional expenditures. We are projecting right now that the rate increase, and this is the increase to the rate revenue, not necessarily the specific increase to the rates themselves, but the increase to the rate revenue. In the first year, we are projecting that to be a 30% increase. Year 2 would be 12%, and then 6% in each of the remaining 3 years of the term. And that starts to help you meet that revenue requirement. Those year 1 and 2 rate adjustments that are higher are we've already done some smoothing in terms of some of those expenditures, trying to make sure that, we're not doing every capital project in year one, for example. But these adjustments are critical to address existing budget deficits for this utility. And then in years 3 to 5, those rate adjustments are necessary to keep pace with inflation and begin to build reserves above the minimum levels. We have this in some a chart form too, so hopefully that'll be easier for folks to see on the next slide. So this chart is just a graphical representation of the water financial plan. The blue bars are the O&M. We have green in the legend, but note that there is no rate funded capital expense fund levels. Again, we're starting out in a negative position or the desired level. And these are the rates. This table shows your current rates for each of the meter sizes. There's a monthly fixed service charge related to each meter size, ranging from 3/4 of an inch all the way up to 6 inches. And then we have it on a volumetric basis. These are monthly, just to be clear there. And then this is a graph that shows where you are in comparison to other agencies in the region. On the far left are your current rates, and then in the middle, the green bar shows your proposed rates and how that compares. There are a couple of agencies that are a little bit less, but there are certainly agencies that are quite a bit more as well. Should I pause for a moment on the water rate study to talk about that before we move on to sewer?
I think it's just blurry, we can't really read it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not, why didn't we have a copy of this?
Yeah,
I don't know why we don't, but.
Do we want to take a break? I can go make copies.
yeah,
We
maybe helpful.
can't see anything.
I can't,
Okay, let's take
I
a break.
can't
I'll
see
go
any of
make
this.
copies.
Could you go back to the last graph and read the cities that are under and over? Please.
Sure, and I have very poor vision, so I'm gonna look at my screen, I can't see those. So again, city of Plymouth current
No.
rates is the one on the left, and then the green bar in the middle is Plymouth proposed rates. Just to the right of the current rates is Union Public Utility District. To the right of that is City of Angels. I'm sorry,
Union is where?
Union PUD,
Do you know where that is? Is it in California?
it is in California.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, these are all in California, yeah.
Okay.
And they're all, nearby, I mean, this is a regional comparison. So City of Angels, then to the right of the proposed Plymouth rates is the Calaveras County Water District. To the right of that is Calaveras PUD. To the right of that is Tuolumne Utility District, and to the right of that is the Amador Water Authority.
I don't think they're gonna take a break.
Okay.
We'll just talk. We're gonna take a break while she gets out there.
Don't we get our water from the Amador water? Which is the graph on the.
We're gonna turn that.
Because they're still, yeah, they're still talking.
Break. Okay, so an official break. Okay.
Recess. Yeah.
think I can listen.
Great, well, they're certain those numbers. Yeah. Part of the schedule.
There, the detailed copies you made, or is there an extra copy of the?
We made plenty of copies for the audience.
So you have, okay, thank you, thank you. All right.
And then Sarah, do you prefer that we ask questions about the water study now or wait until the end?
I think it would make sense to talk about the water rate study while we're focused here, and then we can talk about the sewer rate study after we go through the slides. If that works for you all.
Yeah.
So we'll do public comment first and then. Open to council. So I'll start it off with, we're up to public comment, on 7.1. And Amy Gomes submitted a email copy of her questions to be submitted in the record. Now, go to the public. Does anyone want to get up and speak on this?
Yeah, another one.
Yeah, and then, sure. So, okay, obviously, not seeing any public comment in the room, anything from email other than Amy Gomes?
Nothing other than.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, Rusty. Any questions?
Then at this time, I'm still kind of figuring a few things.
These are just, I mean, okay, yeah, never mind, answer my own question, keep it ghost. Yeah, I'm okay right now.
Wait, were we gonna ask to let a Dave Conrad ask?
Go ahead.
I answered my own question, these are just proposed numbers, the increases, that's all I was gonna ask.
Thank you. Right, Sarah, cumulative rate increase, how do those percentages get compliant? The slide prior to this one, where you show the grade, the lines that we're talking about.
On the financial plan?
No,
Yeah,
yeah, so cumulative rate increases. How do you get to, 0, 30%, 45.6% and so on?
so the first line, which is in yellow, which is the projected annual rate increase, that's the amount of revenue. The percent increase to the revenue, and then the percent increase to the actual rates themselves is what's shown in that next line. So they're kind of two different things. Because we have to take the rates that we're developing and assign those to each of the customer classes. So the revenue as a whole increases by the rate shown on the yellow line, but the rates themselves are increasing by the amount in the line below as they're allocated to those customer classes.
Okay, are the projected annual rate increases set in stone or?
No, they're not. So what we developed in this first pass is a plan that gets you to positive cash flow over the 5-year projected rate period. It accomplishes the goals of being able to fund your operation and maintenance costs. And start to fund some reserve and get you out of the reserve of the fund deficit that you're in right now. So it accomplishes those goals. You certainly could look at a different rate increase. So instead of that 30-12-6-6-6, you could do 10% across the board. You could do, you could do really, that's an
Achieve that
option.
number.
But those options all have financial consequences. And this is the one that starts to get you in a positive position immediately and carries through to get you to a place where you can build up that reserve.
Immediately over 5 years.
You have a
So to
positive
speak.
cash flow immediately and start to
Okay.
address the negative fund balance and get that to positive by the end of the 5-year period.
Instead of coming out of the gate with 30%, I'm wondering if what would look like 2016 888. Is there a way to plug that in?
Yes, I mean.
Not that you have to do it right now, but I'm just curious, just to ease into it a little more, and then what would that look like for us to get positive?
Yeah, we can certainly look at other options in terms of those increases and, and start to model that for you. So that you can see then what the financial consequences of those options are.
Maybe run 2 or 3 different scenarios on that to pick from.
I'd be interested in saying it's basically 60% over 5 years. I mean, I'd be interested in saying it was just 12%. I know that's not gonna immediately, it's next year, it's a steady too across the board. So it's just a steady increase. Not a huge shed. I know there's.
Yeah.
It's gonna be difficult.
We're what, 250,000-ish upside down in our rate fund, so that's why we have a problem. That's what we're trying to rectify, it's getting back into the red.
Right, and whether you fix that problem in year 1 or you begin to fix the problem in, maybe
2 or 3.
So we can look at that. So I heard one scenario to look at would be having a flat or a uniform increase of 12% each year. Are there other specific scenarios?
Yeah, I was wondering about 2016 888. Does the O&M include staffing, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Thank you. What is our commodity cost, our annual consumption? Do we know?
In fiscal year 24-25, the water commodity chart, that's your revenue, hold on. Water commodity purchase in 24-25 was $215,000.
Thank you, that is all.
Yeah, okay, I asked my question. Now, the only other thing, so this is a draft, is this something that we're gonna be able to share to the public tonight, we can all look at whatever, we're still working on it, we put this on our website or whatever. Tomorrow it'll be on there, okay. Yeah, let's have it posted, all right, thank you. Okay.
I got my answers.
Anybody else out there or? Yeah. Just real quick on this, refresh my memory that rates haven't increased for 11 years, correct? Or how long?
Since 2011.
Since 2011. I knew there was 11 in, thank you. I thought that might need to be brought up, it's been a while since they've been done.
Thank you, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah.
Should.
Yeah, this should have done before that.
Sewer.
Can I ask a question?
No, because if I already closed the public comment, unfortunately, but you can address it to Margaret or me or.
Well,
I think it was
public
confusing.
comment on. Sewer.
Is it regarding
Yeah, you can,
sewer?
well, yeah, you can ask during the sewer.
It's regarding water, we're talking about water, and I had a question.
I think it was a little confusing how we did it, you for just letting them do it, personally. Yeah.
Well,
I think the way we did it
yes,
was
come on. Because you got it, and just had enough time to digest the stuff. So we're. It's just about setting precedents.
I just have a question, on water. It says operating expenses, $774,000. And didn't you just say that the water costs $200,000?
Correct, so water commodity was $200,000, which is one component of the operating expense.
Right, but what costs $574,000 to bring the water to us? I don't understand what costs so much money. If the water's coming through a pipe from Sutter Hill and coming into town and we're paying $200,000 for water, why is the expense $774,000? I just wondered where that figure comes from.
There are staffing costs that are included in that number as well.
Staffing as far as
Staff for the water
meter
utilities.
readers?
Staffing for the whole water system. I mean, if you have pipes that break or, what have you, there's
Okay, but
maintenance that's being done to the water system.
Right, but they farm that out to Amateur Water Agency and pay them per break, I would think. They don't, beg your pardon then. So we spent $500,000 to the Amateur Water Agency to fix things?
No, can I speak on this for a minute? So when we went over the budget, I don't think you were here, I don't remember seeing you here for that, but when we went over the budget, there are percentages in certain employees' wages that are allocated out of the water fund. So I believe like for Margaret, for example, 25% of her salary is being paid for out of the water fund, where 50% is being paid for out of another fund. So that's part of where this is coming from, and then like our wastewater person, our that will operate it, that person will have a percentage coming out of the water fund. Plus, we've got the, what is it, $10,000 or $12,000 a month that we're paying the water agency right now.
But that's part of the $200,000.
No, that's just for water. The $200,000 is just for the water,
Raw water.
raw water.
That's just cost of water,
The other
215,
Part.
by the way.
is for all these other expenses there.
This is a debt talking about.
Yeah.
That's
What
separate.
Does it include the debt?
Can I ask,
That's a separate.
can I ask what the water agency does for $10,000 a month? I mean,
So my understanding is that we, and Margaret, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but state of California requires us to have somebody who's certified to manage a wastewater treatment plant.
well, that's the wastewater, I'm talking about water.
And water.
Well, it's all, yeah,
Yeah, they're two separate.
yeah, I guess you're right. Would
Yeah,
that
two
be a
separate
different fund, or would this be the same fund?
The state requires us to have certified water operators, and so we have to pay Amateur Water Agency to have water operators in charge of our water system. And so we have to pay them to operate our water system, and they flush our lines, and they do help us at times with water breaks as well as Shenandoah excavating. And so we do pay them as well. And those are other costs that go into that.
But I was told that that's all part of the cost. That was all part of the cost, the $500,000. They, water agency, if they had a broken pipe, they don't charge you to fix it. I know Ron's gonna charge you to fix it.
Amateur Water also charges us to, if we have to call them out to fix a line.
So that's part
That's
of,
not,
that's part of the $500,000 expense is them fixing things and them monitoring or whatever.
yes, but that's not included in their 10,000
So it's 10,000 just,
for their license.
okay.
That's why
Just
we
seems
are.
like an awful lot of money to me.
We are.
We're trying to get our.
It is, that's what we're trying.
Yeah, so
They
there's
are.
people in training right now so that we'll have our own operators, because we're hoping to get that budget line item off of our list.
Yeah, I would say so. Thank you.
Wow.
Right, sewer.
All right, so the sewer rate study, you'll see we're going to have a pretty similar format here in terms of how we go through the slides, and because the analysis is fairly similar. In a sewer rate study, we are, have a lot of the same goals. We want to ensure that the rates are able to cover operating and maintenance expenses. We want to ensure sufficient funding for capital improvements, maintain appropriate reserves, and of course have legal compliance as well. So this first slide is the financial plan for the sewer utility. And again, similar format, the table looks very much the same in terms of the format where we have the sources of funds, which include the current rates. In this case, there is a low income credit that is provided for the sewer utility, and then there's some miscellaneous fees. And then you have your operating expenses as well as your existing debt service. And again, we're in a negative position across the board, starting in 24-25 and all the way across before the rate increase. And after the rate increase, again, what we're trying to do is really address those same things. That year one adjustment is critical to address the existing budget deficit, and then years 2 through 5 is really just that maintenance mode where we're trying to keep pace with inflation and slowly build reserves. In this case, the year one adjustment is not quite as high as water. We are looking at 17% that year with 5% then across the board. And again, we're doing that in order to address that negative situation. We have a graph showing this on the next slide. So here again, just showing the O&M as well as debt service. We do not have any rate funded capital. And we have the black line is your current rates, and the blue dotted line is the proposed rates. Next slide is the reserves. This fund is in a little bit better position starting off. There is some fund balance. And so one of the things we're doing is continuing to maintain that fund balance and also start to be able to fund some capital improvements. The next slide are the draft rates. There's the current rate. This is just a fixed charge per EDU. And so the current rate is the 8066, and then we have the 5-year rate period rates across the board. And we have one of the similar slide with the regional comparison as well, with the lighter green bar being the current rates, the darker green bar being proposed rates, and some of the other neighboring agencies rates as well. Look at being kind of right in the middle or lower end there. We'll pause there. I do have one more slide to that kind of process going forward, but maybe we'll have that discussion after we have a conversation about the sewer rates, if that works.
So what I'm saying.
There's one more slide that shows the process for rate approval. But I thought we'd wait and do that after the conversation about the sewer rates. That's.
Okay, so open up for public comment. Is there anyone who wants to go to the
Yeah,
come on up, sir.
thank you. So,
Sir, can you?
so if,
Can you announce who you are?
Steve Pinotti,
Just for the record.
Steve Pinotti, Plymouth, California, 95669. So is there a way of water and sewer, the cost, is there a way of breaking that down so we know where all of that expense comes from? If 25% goes to her salary and 10% goes to Joe Blow's salary, is there a way of breaking all that down?
In the budget.
It's in the budget, so that'd be on the website, City of Plymouth website.
If you see me tomorrow, I can give you a copy.
Okay, thank you.
I will say, but just so you know, it is a little confusing in the budget. You have to look under the water fund and then. So when you look in the salaries, you're gonna see it separated out, is what I'm trying to get at. It's not like just a super easy broken down line item, so I would be happy to sit with you and.
I just wondered how this person, I'm not saying this company, or how they came to the figure. They had to go through and forensically.
I'm sure.
decipher everything?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that will be part of, so this is the very first step of this process where we've gathered the data, we are bringing preliminary results to the community, to the council for consideration and direction. As we move forward in this process, there will be a full, what we call a rate study report that has all of the, including this financial plan, but all of the backup data, line by line, telling you what the operation and maintenance expenditures are. And I've got it in Excel now, but it just, we will get to that point. But right now, the conversation, I think, is a little bit higher level in terms of, what is our approach to the rate setting? And that's where we're looking for some direction. But that data will all be included in the rate study report.
May I ask how much your company charges for this service?
The contract was 95,000.
100,000, okay.
Steve? Any questions, Stephanie? None yet, you guys don't have to always start on this end.
Wedding, just speaking.
All right, well then I'll start.
Yeah, let first.
That's okay. I'm eager tonight. As far as the rate increase, I again would like to see a bit of a softening below there of a 10.7776. Maybe along those lines, or at least a 12 to start. And then my other question, Sarah, is under the summary of sewer revenue requirements. You mentioned sewer miscellaneous fees to the tune of $67,000, $68,000, and $70K and going up. What are those fees that are nothing?
Those are fees that were shown in the budget for the sewer utility in the enterprise fund. So those were additional fees. As non-operating revenue.
Is it possible to break them out and call them out as what they are, so that, it's kind of like getting my cell phone bill, it's like miscellaneous fees. Why? What?
Well, I think like the waters, it's gonna be broken out at the next level. Am I wrong?
I'd have to go back into the budget and see if we have any additional detail. Again, but these were the amounts that we entered from the budget document. So
Yeah,
I don't know if we have, but I can work with Margaret.
if we can get a little more clarity, I think everybody would appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's awesome. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to agree with Boulder with softening the blow a little bit, at least 3 different models. Break it out in percentages on both of these. We gotta think of budgets and families and stuff. It'd be great to get all this done in a year, I don't think that's realistic at all.
I agree with Rusty and Homer, it's too much too quick. Unfortunately, we can't unwind the clock and go back to 2011 to make this a steady increase, and people are already struggling in a really difficult economy, so I definitely would wanna see a softer approach, even if it meant pulling this out past 5 years. I don't know if that's an option, but to hit people this hard, I think is too much.
I also just want to point out that AWA is in the process of a 218, and so their rates will also be going up more, which will impact us.
Are we budgeting for this here then?
That's what this
Is that the reason why we're going up as much as we are, because of their rate increase, or?
Correct.
No,
No,
we don't even know their rate.
Yeah.
But for the previous.
we haven't increased our rates since 2011. We're behind the 8 ball
Right.
on that. And they have raised our rates. We
And absorb the
and we've absorbed their costs. And we haven't passed any of that on to our ratepayers. We have included, we tried to estimate, we would like to include the clause that when AWA raises their rates, it gets passed on to the ratepayers, so that this doesn't happen in the future.
Got it. I'd like to know, I don't see anything to study, I guess it wouldn't be, I'd like to know if we have anything in place for, say, lower income families when these increases go up, like PG&E has things in place like that. And, you know, that kind of program, and do we have any kind of program for, say, older like veterans or anything like that, where we could offer a break, and how would that affect these numbers here? Because I know, we do have people that are struggling literally to pay this bill right now. I've talked to people who are using the food bank and stuff, so this is gonna be a big deal. And I'd like to, you know, I know it's just a draft, but somehow, you know, I'd like to address that and see if there's a way we could, you know, address it, maybe put something in place or have something figured out there.
Yeah, and I would just want to mention that if you are going to have a program like that where you're offering discounts or some sort of assistance to pay these utility bills, that revenue has to come from non-rate revenue. So it has to come from outside your utility funds, so that would be general funds or some other source of funds that then you're dedicating to offset some of the bills for some of those customers. So it does have to come from that place. There is a low income program in place right now for the sewer rates. So that is in place, and that does continue through we projected that would continue through the 5-year rate period, but there's not one in place currently, to my understanding, for the water utility.
Thank you.
See, I can't.
I have one last question concerning water. Does anyone in this room know if we have water rights to the Consumnes River?
Okay, thank you. So, okay,
It's being worked on, it's a whole other matter, but yes, it's being worked on. We did.
yes. You're looking good, so I thought we guessed. So,
You go.
that's it?
No
Yeah.
more questions?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, and just real quick point of clarification, I wrote down the 10-7-7-7-6 option, and then one that starts with 12, and we'll figure out, you know, kind of what those other numbers need to be. Was there a third specific scenario or just another option?
Just
Another.
Can we possibly pull it out across 8 years versus 5, or is it a 5-year plan because of regulations?
You can set rates for 5 years only. So you could come back in year 4 and go through your rate setting process and then carry that out, but right now we can set rates only for the 5-year period.
So we have to hire you to go through that process again.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, so it costs another $95,000. Ish.
for a rate
Probably.
study update, it is a little cheaper.
Well, just for clarification purposes.
Okay, so then we're going to the last slide. This is where we're talking about the process for utility rate setting. So right now, again, these are very preliminary. We've discussed that we'll come back and present some additional options to you in terms of how those increases are occurring. But what the process entails is first for council to provide direction on the proposed rate adjustments. So we'll start to look at that. The next formal step of the process is that council will direct staff to send out the Prop 218 notices. That is a notice of public hearing that includes all of the rate information that is mailed to all of your customers as well as property owners in the community. That notice is mailed out 45 days ahead of the public hearing. Then you would hold your public hearing. At that public hearing, property owners and ratepayers have the opportunity to protest the rates if they so choose. If there is a majority protest, then you don't move forward with your rate increase. If there is not, then council would adopt the new rates. In terms of timing, what we're looking at then is coming back in June to call that public hearing and direct the mailing of the notices, and in August for the actual hearing, to allow that 45-day period.
So I guess, do we need a motion on it? Or just direct?
So right now, we're just looking for the direction that you've provided on the options for the rates, and we will get that back over and work through that process. But we're not setting the hearing right now.
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
Eric, what was the overall timeline between 1, 2, 3, 4? On that last slide?
Between 2 and 3, which is directing the notices, the only required timing is that those notices have to be mailed 45 days ahead of the hearing. So we would mail them shortly after the council meeting where we have direction to do so, make sure that that's 45 days ahead of that hearing date.
So we could have a hearing 46 days after the mail date.
You could, yes.
Okay, so there's no other guideline or, okay. And when you talk about majority protest, how do you define what a majority looks like?
It is calculated by the number of properties in the community and a majority of those. So if you have 100 properties in the community, then you would have to receive 51 protests for there to be a majority.
Thank you.
So it's a 51% no matter what.
So 2, TOT grant awarded by the city manager in 25, consider awarding grant for the last quarter for priorities.
And I interrupt really quick. I just want to thank you, Sarah.
Yes.
I appreciate your presentation.
Yeah.
So Councilmember Cranford asked for an accounting of what TOT grants I had granted in 2025. So I've only granted those 3 in the staff report. And the only additional grant that came in was for Fires Food and Wine Festival, which came in prior to their event last weekend. And they're requesting $5,000 for their event. And their grant application is in your packet. And staff is recommending approval of the grant. They brought a lot of people into Plymouth for their events. We have granted their we have awarded their grant in the past.
For much higher numbers.
That,
Don't.
yes. And
They know.
And staff is, like I said, recommending approval of their application.
Can I ask for the 3 grants that you granted in this year? Do you know what the total amount is together?
$10,650.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's going to that. She's going.
So, Margaret kind of wrapped everything up in a nutshell, and I know that, I believe Megan had, presented prior, I believe, when Tracy was here. But I just wanted to, because obviously we did just have forest fires, so, we did have you as one of our, sponsors for this, because we, were hoping and kind of under the impression that that was, something that would be able to, transpire. So the event, was very successful. We had over 64% new ticket purchases, meaning folks coming to this area that have never been to an event prior, so that's a great number, bringing people in. You know, just within the town of Plymouth, we had a lot of folks with Airbnbs, Rest Hotel, and then also the 49er had a ton of folks that were staying with them. And not just a single night, most of them were 2 to 3 nights. And then we did hear from Rest that she had 3 couples book 3 nights for next year's event in hopes that 4 Fires would be that same weekend at the fairgrounds. So, you know, really positive numbers. We also had a great increase in VIP ticket sales. So normally we do 150, we had 350 this year for VIP. And then we had, you know, a lot of local, you know, restaurants. We had Crossover Kitchen, Hotel Sutter, Off the Vine, and all represented in the regions, which we do pay them. So it's an expensive event to put on. So we were really happy with the way everything turned out. And, you know, as Megan put in her report, you know, we really care about Plymouth, and, you know, Plymouth is a gateway to the Shenandoah Valley. And so it not only brings people to, you know, unincorporated, but the incorporated areas of Plymouth, gas stations, you know, Pokerville Market, and all of that. So we would really express our gratitude of having these funds. You know, we do have other funding from, you know, membership, but that's kind of all changing now since we're doing Wine Heritage. But that does not negate the fact that these events cost a lot of money to put on, and you know, we still need funding sources. So, any questions?
No question.
Yes.
What was your total attendance?
Our total attendance was, I believe, 925. So it's a little less this year, but almost half of that was VIP tickets, which were $125 a ticket. So.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? I'll start with Holger.
Well, I do have a comment. I did have several people tell me that they are staying in the 49er and came to the winery on Sunday. So that's why they're doing it, right? So that we get the exposure. So it worked. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to just make a motion to approve we have to do public comment.
Sorry. I forgot about that.
I'd like to open for public comment, please. Anything from the web? All right, let's close public comment.
All right, I jumped the gun.
Sorry, I jumped the gun. I'd like to make a motion to approve the TOT grant for 4 Fires Food and Wine Festival
The amount of.
Oh.
in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
Councilmember Bradford,
Aye.
Councilmember Felina,
Aye.
Councilmember Hornish,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nunn,
Aye.
Mayor Amaruso.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes.
7.3, adopt resolution 2025-11 approving the list of proposed projects to be funded by the road maintenance and rehabilitation account RMRA funds for the fiscal years 25-26 as required by California Transportation Commission CTC for funding eligibility under the local streets and roads funding program.
This is an annual report that comes to the city council for SB1 funds for road repair and accountability act of 2017. The projects that are on your list have been on the list for a few years now. We do have construction dates on that we're hoping to get to this year. There's not enough funding for both projects. We're looking into some grant funding for the projects. If we don't get grant funding for the projects, then we're only gonna have enough for one project. We are asking ACPC ACTC for some funding as well. We're required to go onto the portal of CalSmart by July 1st and upload our list of projects that the council approves. And so the resolution, they request that you get it pre-approved by them. And so this resolution was approved by them by their standards. And so staff's recommending approval of resolution 2025-11, approving the list that's in the staff report for 49 in Mill Street and the project on Landon Street.
Thank you. Yeah, at this point, I'd like to open up for public comment. Anyone like to speak? Seeing there's anything from you? Okay, all right. Those public comment? Over.
How much money are we short?
A lot.
Do we know what each project is going to cost us?
We do not know the exact cost because we haven't paid the engineers to do
This thing,
right, because that is a cost.
right? So how do we know that we're gonna be short and it's gonna be a lot short?
I've asked our engineers to ballpark it
Mhm.
and just the 49 Mill Street
Mhm.
makes us short.
So we don't know how much.
Our estimated cost for this year is with our HUDA funds, our highway user tax funds is only 64,000. And the project at 49 and Mill is is they're ballparking over $120,000. But we do have some impact fee funds that we can use towards that project.
Will they cover it?
It will come close.
Okay, and then for the rest, or the delta, even on the Highway 49 and Mill, are we actively seeking out grants and things of that nature as well?
Yes, I'm online every Monday looking for new grants that have been posted to streets and highway. There's 4 different places that I'm looking for grants for public works projects.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you didn't want to go.
You're last there.
You're not next.
I'm last.
You're last there.
That's fine. Other question about this when I looked at it, how we made this priority list on this. My concern is, these are our projects that we need to get done and so forth, but I look at how bad Old Sacramento Road is at the end of the town going around the bend at Old Oker. It was so bad that Supervisor O'Never called me one afternoon at work and told me that his crews called and told him there was a hole so dangerous they thought a motorcycle would wreck it, and they were willing to help us patch it, and I think they got out there and patched it up. And I drive through there and it beats you slow way down. And I'm just wondering, I realize we're looking at multi-millions of dollars to repave that road, but I'm wondering how far, even just that little section right there, if our money's not better spent, where it's almost dangerous right there right now for people driving over that, especially motorcycles and so forth, but even a car, get that bouncing, and they're putting a cold patch in there, it looks like, it's just gonna wash right back out. And so I kind of wonder about our priorities on these projects here. If we shouldn't be looking at spots that could literally probably get somebody hurt very bad right now, I think that would be a higher priority than some of this other stuff.
Landrum, not Landrum, Highway 49 and Mill is a safety hazard of cars coming off 49 onto the city streets at a high rate of speed. And so that project is bringing out the curb and making cars slow down coming off the highway. So that is a safety project as well. We are proposing to ACTC Old Sacramento Road. That project is being drawn up by Weber Geo to propose to ACTC as a project, as a safety project, and as it being a main emergency exit route from Plymouth and this side of the county out to Latrobe. So we're not ignoring Old Sacramento Road. It is being addressed just in a different format. We can't touch it with these funds.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that the Mill Street issue isn't something, I'm just kind of curious if, like, possibly for now, something there like a speed bump or something like that, to slow people down and then put money into fixing these areas where we're literally in huge holes that, you know, can make people wreck. Just those little areas, fixing those, which I don't know how viable that is, you know, so we have to talk to Ben or what it would cost to repay the little area right there or something. It's just, all I'm bringing up, that's my big concern, is that somebody does these maybe be a little bit higher priority on our list than that and the Lander Street thing.
Main Street, has to go faster.
You know what, you can get those plastic, you can buy.
It's a challenge.
You can buy the pre-done plastic ones and they drive them, I don't know how they do it, I'm sure Public Works have figured out, they drive them in the ground, they put them in there. And they're a little steeper and harder, and you don't wanna speed over those ones. These ones out here, they're, yeah.
We need more down.
They're kind of a joke, I mean, but those other ones are pretty serious, I've hit them before in the dark, not realizing it, I'm telling you, it's not fun.
Okay, I have a couple questions. Was the 49 and Mill project something that was discussed and put on prior to the roundabout at Main and 49? Or was it discussed and put on here after that?
Was put on after.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I think that was after.
And then another question I have is the ditch runs right there. Will Caltrans even touch this because of that? Wouldn't that be a whole CEQA EPA ordeal because there's a waterway there? That's it.
We're working with Caltrans on that. And it's on this side of the ditch.
Okay, and then so I'm clear, the description of what the goal is for there to be a traffic light there or a roundabout? Or either, or it's not even, we don't know, it's just needs to be evaluated.
I'm not doing a very good job of explaining it. It's on this side of the ditch. And it's gonna be.
This side as in the
This-
town, the
this
where
side
the
of the-
church is.
West side of the ditch.
Thank you.
I don't do southeast west.
It's gonna be
I'm a
on,
girl.
it's gonna be on the town side of the
Okay.
ditch. And it's gonna be an island that comes out further than into the intersection that is now the intersection. So that there's a normal sized intersection. So that cars can't fly off the highway into the wide intersection.
So right now, it's this big wide,
Right,
so they're gonna put an island that kind of protrudes out and narrows it down to 2 lanes
oh,
to slow people down.
well, this says traffic signals and lights, that makes it sound like we're putting in a
It was
whole.
confusing.
That is confusing, so I'm wondering how we're doing with the traffic light for that kind of money, because they're outrageous.
I just know the project has been talked about for a while.
Okay,
I'm not sure where that actual description came in.
maybe we
That
can,
was done
fix
pretty soon.
that.
I can fix that.
yeah, cause I'm thinking we're talking massive
Yeah, no.
change, and it doesn't sound like that's the case. Okay, and then, there was another question I had, I would also second and encourage what Councilmember Nunn said about Old Sac Road, it sounds like that is on your list. of things, it's horrendous to drive to Folsom. So, and everyone knows that.
Yeah, well, living over there off the mill, I. People exit that highway doing 55, 60 miles an hour down Mill Street. Hit the post office, drive down Main, go down my street. So I was the crazy guy out there when my kids were young, playing in the street, hosing people down with my car. So I appreciate trying to slow down. And when I talked to the sheriff's department about that, about using radar or whatever, they said, well, on the city street, it's not surveyed, they gave me all kinds of stuff. But anyway, I just have a quick question, the old Plymouth Sacramento Road. How long does the city have that? When did the county give that up?
8 or 9 months ago.
And how far down the road?
Down to where the spray fields are.
That's always regular,
Yeah.
I thought it was a sewer treatment plant.
Did the county just like come, how was that process?
What happened was when Zinfandel Ridge went in, they were supposed to have a access road that went out to Old Sacramento Road.
Yeah.
And when they did that, we were supposed to take
It triggered.
the maintenance of Old Sacramento Road, and that's what triggered it.
Up to that point.
And they didn't put that into place, and then they called us about 8 or
Okay.
9 months ago and said, you need to take over your maintenance part on Old Sacramento Road.
Yeah, but we have less
And
road through
and
there.
it went in gaps, like we had a portion, they had a portion, and it went in like half to 3/4 of a mile at a time. And so we equaled out the space and made it so that it was easier for maintenance instead of trying to figure out and point fingers, no, that's your part, that's your part.
But we should have made them
Yeah, the county should have
resurface
given
it
the road
before we took
over.
it.
They should have handed the road over, cause it just didn't happen, that road's been like that.
They've neglected for
many
50+ years.
Okay,
I had no idea that was only 9 months ago. I thought we did this a couple of years ago. They were taking over.
But wasn't that regarding Zinfandel Ridge, wasn't that a phase 4 requirement? Cause they just finished phase 3.
No, it kicked in, it kicked in earlier.
So there's some kind of agreement, I would hope, that they're paying for fixing this road, since it's their development, but we had to take it in for.
There's no requirement for Zinfandel Ridge to pay for the maintenance on Old Sacramento Road.
Can I ask, oh, sorry, Rusty.
no problem. No, all my questions got answered, thank you.
Can I ask who initiated that it was time for us to take the road over, that partial part of the road?
County maintenance,
Is that something that we got to agree to, or it's just, here you go?
doesn't seem right.
No, something's not right here. I've got one.
Was there a vote by council on taking it over?
There is a signed agreement years ago that makes us responsible for portions of Old Sacramento Road. We really don't have a choice. There's a signed agreement that says we're responsible from when Zinfandel Ridge went in. And it makes us responsible for portions of Old Sacramento Road.
So, but prior to that, I mean, this is a little off base, where the trailer park just did an ingress egress in the new subdivision part, the new trailer park down here. They didn't properly put a culvert in, and it floods out into the street, and I told Ryan Neto, I called him and said, hey, you gotta come out and look at this, cause this is an issue, someone's gonna hydroplane and get killed here. And he said, he came out and looked, he's like, well, there's nothing we can do, it's like, well, you issued the permit, they issued the permit for that ingress egress. And he just washed his hands up and walked away.
If they issued the permit for it, then they need to.
Yeah,
go
but we
take care of
didn't.
it.
We didn't, it's not in the city limits.
Yeah, I'd like to see a copy of that whole thing made available to us.
Yeah, cause I'm hoping that there would be some kind of thing that the county would give us in decent shape. Is there anything we can do, like write a letter or go to the board of supervisors and start protesting, or is it a viewpoint?
I'm not sure, let me
Is
let me
this-
work with our
I was
legal.
gonna say, can we work with legal on this?
Yeah.
Sure, we can.
I think that's a smart thing.
Absolutely can.
This
Cause we're not
is-
gonna fix this one.
Yeah, this is absurd.
Because normally, I'm almost positive, when they built the bypass and they wanted, the state wanted to dump Old 49 on Sutter Creek, I think Sutter Creek made them do a bunch of repairs, and it's like it had to be turned over in decent shape, I thought.
I mean, yeah.
This is definitely,
You think?
okay, the county never took care of Old Sac there.
I'll definitely work with.
Bring it back into focus.
Legal about that.
Let's get back into focus because we're getting a lot off base here. A lot off base. So what do we want to do with this? I think we've asked questions. Do we want to adopt this as a placeholder for funding, or do we want to change it, or just sit on it for now? And do we find other projects that take precedent?
One quick question,
Sure.
if the funding comes through, is it? If the projects don't get done, can the funding be extended to the next fiscal year? Or do we lose it?
Oh, they can be extended to the next year.
There you go.
I would rather. I would rather we, personally, I'm gonna be a no on this tonight, cause I would rather we take our time and look at this and see.
And there might be more important things.
Yeah, so.
Within our wheelhouse.
Yeah, I think we need to take a little bit more time on this and maybe, listen to input too from the people, about, what their, citizens' priorities are on it as well,
The staff that's out there.
The staff, our public works, and so if, like Rusty asked, if that can be rolled over, then I'm saying that we can wait on this.
Yeah, we have to upload the resolution by July 1st. I can bring it back on at the June meeting.
Perfect, let's do that. Yeah, if we're not up against the timeline right this second.
Yeah.
You can do some fact finding.
Yeah, I'll bring it back June 12th.
That'd be great, thank you.
Could we put it on an agenda to have public come and share their thoughts and worries and concerns about things in town? Can we, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how we word that, I'm just saying, so that we officially put it out there. Hey, come tell us what your grievances are with traffic issues in town or whatever, roads.
Or have a public comment period on how we, on what our priority list is or something.
Sure, we can do that at the June 12th meeting, and in a second meeting in June, you can adopt the resolution with whatever projects you pick from.
As long as the
their
Highway
comments.
49 mill stays on the list. That is,
Well, it is-
I get Old Plymouth Road, I completely understand, but we have multiple people that walk this road, kids and everybody out on Mill Street.
It's a big issue.
We have the trailer park, 49er, we have people walking up, getting coffee up here. We have a lot more foot traffic, anymore, in town. I think everybody is out at 6 o'clock walking the dog. And that street is just notorious for speeding. And it's been that way for 20 years plus. So, I mean,
Just a quick suggestion, if you're looking for comments on trouble spots, it might be easier for staff to consolidate those and kind of tabulate common concerns if we maybe put up a notice on the website that says, please submit them by the June meeting.
Yeah, I love
I think that's a great
Yeah, I
idea.
think that's a great idea.
That we've got.
Yeah, you got some
We've
matrix.
got that solicitation out there.
Yeah.
And then staff's got something put together for that meeting.
Perfect.
I'm with Rusty's sentiment as well, that if we have almost enough money with these grants, this, that, and the other fund to complete the Highway 49 and Mill Street portion, then I would like to see that go forward and be completed.
Well, it also work good in conjunction with
the walking path from the roundabout
Correct,
down to Bush Street.
because they're working on that.
Right, so we're working on that. All right, so I think you got consensus, I think we're just gonna take this till the first June meeting with consensus to put on the website. Looking for people's concerns from other issues from the city. And then I think we're gonna take a small break because I think there's some monies we need to have.
We stay hydrated.
Are you ready? Okay. So now we're gonna go to move to 7.4, staff report on progress of the 4th of July event.
So we started the initial planning process for the 4th of July event that the city is now sponsoring. And we're not sponsoring the parade. That'll be as normal with John Colburn and Jamie LeBanco taking the lead on that. It'll still be trucks, tractors and trikes. I did talk to Jamie late this afternoon and they're excited to still be taking that on.
Perfect.
The evening festivities will begin at 6 p.m. in the park featuring food, music, and then followed by fireworks at dusk. This is an alcohol-free event and the city will be taking extra steps to get the word out on that early and often. And we've reached out to the fire department. We've had our initial strategic planning meeting with the fire department. They'll have additional personnel and apparatus out this year. Last year was the first year that the fire chief had actually seen the event, and I can't tell you what his words were. He was shocked at what our event was. He had never seen such a thing. And until you see it in person, you don't realize what it is. We have reached out to the sheriff's office for staffing and they've posted it up for overtime. And once we have that in place, we'll have a meeting with both public safety agencies and staff that will be working the event. We're working with our risk management to get our insurance in place and our special event insurance in place. And once we get that in place, I will let the council know and we'll be set to go. And that is the update that I have for you on that tonight. I just wanted to let the council know, since we had talked about this previously, I just wanted to let the council know formally where we were in the process on the event.
Right. Thank you. All right, we're open for public comments. Anyone like to speak on this? Public comments? Okay. Anything from any emails? All right, thank you very much. At this point, I'll close public comment and I'll go to Holder.
So I saw the hard figure for the sheriff's cost, the 1430. What else does the sponsorship entail? What does it mean? What are we doing to be the sponsor? What does it include? And then what other expenses do you foresee us to have for city?
So we'll have overtime costs for staff because it's an evening event. We will have the other things that we do are advertising the event. We line up vendors for the food vendors, we line up the band. We help the fire department with whatever it is that they need help with prior to the event. We block off the ends of the street. And we just coordinate and make sure and try to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Do you already have band and food settled? Picked?
We abandoned food for 4th. The food potentially will be Marlene and Glenn's, and we do not have the band yet.
Okay, so since you said that food is an added cost, right? Are we providing food for people or they're coming?
The food is not a cost to the city. We line them up and we provide them the space and then they charge the public for what they provide.
Do they charge us a minimum for showing up?
They don't charge us anything.
Okay. I would love to help in the future specifically with food and or band, because I have a lot of contracts through the winery.
You can still help them?
Yeah.
It's not late.
So put me on your email. Thank you.
My question, in years past, we've had multiple food vendors, we're still gonna have the food trucks out there, right? You're talking about the running list.
Rock and roll.
We're still gonna have the multiple food trucks, because I think people like having the, variety of stuff.
Everybody has a different opinion on that. Sometimes people say we have too much to offer, and then the people that come don't make enough money, so we were asked to scale that back, so
Asked by who?
some of the public and and the vendors.
What was your head count last year? Do you know? Of attendees?
There's no way.
There's no way of knowing that.
It's getting very big. It's very
There's a
big.
lot of people.
So I will tell you this, once I cross 300 people at a concert, I get a third food truck.
That's what you made.
Okay, then we don't have enough food yet, so if you could work with David, that would be
I would
great.
love to. CC me.
I think a lot of people like to have the variety of kids, I'd like to see us have at least 3, personally.
The Holger's gonna work with you.
Awesome, thank you.
We're past public comment.
Were you done?
I just have a question, if anybody reaches out to the high school service clubs to do food, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done, Holger? You're not. So, I have a question on this. I see we're looking at, sheriff personnel, 2 deputies, swing shift on overtime. I question, did we ask for 2 deputies, or is that what Sheriff Redmond recommended? If it seems to me, honestly, as big as this thing's getting, I think 2 deputies a little slim to cover the whole thing. I was thinking we would have like 4, but I don't know how other people feel about it, but.
That was their recommendation, not mine.
Okay, and I'm looking at the cost of this, $1,430 for these 2 deputies. I understand that's an overtime rate, that's not about right. So we're basically being charged for a whole shift for them, 10 hours. So we're gonna have these 2 deputies in the city for that whole 10-hour shift. Or did he specify that?
Correct. They'll go to briefing, they'll go to their swing shift briefing, and then they'll respond to Plymouth, and they'll be here their entire shift.
Okay, and it says swing shift, so we're looking at, what, coming on around 2 or 4 or something, and we know.
I think they start at 3:30 and then they go to briefing and then they'll respond out. They'll be here around 5.
Yeah, I know they have multiple start times, so I just wondered, we'll have them here well before the event, and well after to. There, okay. 2 deputies, well, I guess there's other officers available in the area. I would think that we'd be looking at more. I don't know how other people feel about that. Just, it seems like it's gotten starting pretty out of hand some years, which everybody's having fun. I'm all for it. It's, I question only having 2.
It's also not a problem.
Oh, that was the other question I had. I was reading somewhere, they're talking about, we don't allow drinking at the event. Is there a reason people, I mean, obviously, we don't want people drinking too much, but is that just our city ordinance? They can't be drinking out on the streets, or what if people bring their own alcohol? They can't have a beer at the event or what? No, I don't know why we don't allow that. I'm just asking.
There's no drinking in public.
We do it at the farmer's market.
Yeah, exactly.
They sell alcohol at the farmer's market,
They're still drinking in public.
Yeah,
but they have an ABC license to sell alcohol
It's
at
a
the
special
farmer's
one-day
market.
permit.
It's a special.
They permit to be held in the park.
Can we get a 1-day permit for Main Street?
well, I think if we're not, you get rid of alcohol, I don't think we need a permit. We just suspend the city, ordinance for a day.
Okay, I have a secondary question.
Yeah, I do that to our lawyers.
Thunder Creek is a wet city. So we have all kinds of events in Plymouth where people are drinking in the street, drinking in the park. And so I'm just curious if we can look into changing an ordinance or suspend it, like you said, for a day or something.
I mean, we could look at options. Are you looking to have a vendor that sells alcohol at the event?
Not
That's
necessarily.
not necessarily that, I just think it's been pretty indiscriminate how we've enforced that in the past, I mean. I can imagine how many times I was standing on the street or in the market. I think that, I don't think it's that big of a deal if we have deputies there, that anybody's out of hand, they're gonna deal with them. I don't know, that's just my feeling on it, I don't know how everybody else feels on it, but I saw that and I wondered why people weren't allowed to have a beer as long as they weren't going, going too far.
Go to him.
You know?
This was also a recommendation from the fire chief.
No, sheriff's office. Did they weigh in on it at all?
It wasn't addressed with the sheriff's office at this point.
I mean, there's people all over Jackson on July 3rd drinking, all over the city of
Walking down the
Jackson.
side of 49 and everywhere,
Yeah, no, that's good. Right?
Yeah.
yeah.
School junior high.
But Junior,
It would be something I think we could at least bring up with the sheriff and get his feeling on it, if he's something he'd be all right with or not, and maybe bring him back.
that's the day for that day.
As well as the other thing, maybe ask, I don't know how you guys feel about, you guys think 2 deputies was enough? Is what
I
you
do.
think? You think it's all right?
I do,
Literally.
I think it's,
All right.
I think it's enough,
I think last year was a freak deal.
yes, it was
Yes,
a freak
We usually
incident,
don't
we've
have
never
any
had a problem.
it was enough.
And 2 is plenty,
Okay.
we don't go all the way down to Main Street,
Yeah.
we're just in the,
So
small
post office
section.
to
If
the.
that's a consensus, I'm good with that then.
Yeah.
That's one quick one, is there an end time for this? It says starts at 6. Is there an official ending time?
We've never had it.
I'm asking if there is.
It usually finishes, it usually finishes about 10 to
10.
30, and then there's about 45 minutes to an hour cleanup. So usually streets are pretty cleared out at that point by 11 o'clock.
By 11.
Might be something we ask the sheriff's office that, I mean, for them, if they want to clear people out at a certain point, if there's no city ordinance or anything in place, they really don't have anything to go off of for you, so you might ask them if we need to post it, the event's over a certain time or whatever. So people are in the street or whatever, if we need to.
I thought the point 10 was 10 o'clock a month.
It is, that's our noise ordinance.
But we don't have to do it like that, I don't know. Want everybody to have a good time, but when it's over, we need the streets open and everybody.
People kind of hang out in the park and just visit, it's Fourth of July.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that, I mean, I do too, just, I don't know if the sheriff needs us to address anything about that, would help.
That's fine then.
Yeah, let's put it back on. Yeah.
Why don't you open up your mom's place for an after hours?
There you go.
We all head down there and talk about it. I'll be stumbling right by it. What's it about?
So, I think you have direction. For everybody in this is. It's 7.5, Public Works reorganization, elimination of 2 part-time maintenance workers positions. 0.8 FTE, addition of 1 chief wastewater treatment operator, position 1 FTE. And reclassify the director of public works to administrative analyst. Staff.
So the purpose of the proposed changes is part of the ongoing effort to reorganize and strengthen the Public Works Department. Specifically, we're proposing to eliminate 2 part-time maintenance worker positions. And this is going to streamline staffing and align resources more effectively, resulting in operational efficiencies and cost savings without impacting service levels. At the same time, we're recommending the addition of a chief wastewater treatment operator position. Currently, the wastewater treatment plant, as you know, is operated under contract with AWA. However, we now have a significant opportunity to bring wastewater treatment plant operations back in-house. Doing so would not only reduce costs, but also give us much better operational control and oversight. The council tasked me with bringing down costs at the wastewater treatment plant, and this is one way of doing that. Having a chief operator on staff will ensure smooth transition and continued regulatory compliance. Lastly, we're seeking to reclassify the Director of Public Works position to better reflect the expanded role of leadership responsibility necessary to complete this reorganization successfully. Overall, these actions are intended to finalize the reorganization of Public Works Department, resulting in a more efficient, more effective, and more financially sustainable operation for the city. As part of bringing wastewater operations back in-house, we'll release AWA from the current operational contract. We plan to hire a chief wastewater plant operator to oversee the facility and retain an existing employee who is currently working towards their operator license. Once licensed, this employee will serve as a backup operator, providing important depth and continuity for our operations. Through carefully restructuring and strategic planning, we are achieving substantial cost reductions. These savings will free up resources for reinvestment into priority areas and future initiatives. Reducing operational overhead and reallocating resources will bolster the city's financial health. We are creating a more sustainable and resilient financial foundation for the future, improved operational control and service delivery. A leaner structure enhances management oversight and simplifies workflows. Citizens will experience faster, more efficient service delivery with better responsiveness to community needs. The Public Works Department will be more focused and efficient, targeting core services. Importantly, the structure preserves the ability to take on special projects, completing them within a reasonable timeframe without overextending resources. Tonight, I'm recommending the council approve the proposed staffing changes to support the Public Works reorganization. Specifically, this includes eliminating 2 part-time maintenance worker positions totaling 0.8 FTE, adding 1 full-time chief wastewater treatment plant operator position, and reclassifying the Director of Public Works position to administrative analyst. The reclassification will be implemented at a later date as determined by the city manager. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be able to answer your questions.
At this time, I'm going to open up public comment. Mr. Bernard.
Keep the noting, London. Curious, I don't know who the second part-time worker is. I know one's Mark Giovanetti. And I've lived in the same house for 52 years in this town and seen him come, seen him go. Mark's a hard worker. I don't see how eliminating a part-time is gonna save money at all. There's no benefits, you're paying him, he's doing a good job. I don't understand the process. And the other question would be, the Public Works Director, is that the new guy that you guys hired? That would be the woman's name is over here, Kathleen Johnson. So what does she do now? If you hired Boone to do Public Works, what does Kathleen do now? If you're gonna re-implement her to a new.
There's things we can't respond to because of employee stuff.
Okay, that's fine, but
You can ask the question, but not the reason we're not.
what would her job be at the new position? That's what I'm asking them.
I think the new position is an administrative analyst. I don't know who would be in that position. I have no idea.
Well, this says reclassify the Public Works Director position to an administrative analyst position.
Right, so what I'm saying is, in my past experience in work, whenever we've had a RIF or a reorg, you have to apply for whatever new position and that happened to me. So I don't know if that's how it works at the city level, but I know in a corporate environment, when a reorg or a RIF happens, you have to apply for the new position that's available. So we can't answer your question, as far as I know.
Well, this says to be implemented by the city manager. So that means city manager has control to put Kathleen in an analyst position for public works. Do we really need an analyst?
No, that's her job, it's not our job. They're not our employees, they're her employees.
Do we really need an analyst in public works? I mean, pretty much clean ditches and weed eat, and I mean, I don't know, I don't understand. Maybe I don't get it.
There's a lot of paperwork that goes along with that and reports that need to be filed with the state.
Okay, what would the public works guy that you hired do then? He wouldn't do that?
He's out in the field supervising and also completing work.
Okay, all right, well, I've just never seen it in this town. There's all these layers now, and I just think you need, sorry, time's up.
Okay. Yes.
Here, city council.
Turn on your mic, November.
Try to talk real close to it.
Mayor, city council. Bear with me, I am not a speaker, I am a worker. I've worked for the city of Plymouth for 17 years. During this time, I have successfully worked for 8 city managers prior to the current city manager. I have always been willing and capable to do any job asked of me. Over the years, I've put in extra hours whenever I was needed. I have always been a very loyal city employee. I enjoy my job and the people of Plymouth. However, due to this agenda, item 7.5, I cannot in good faith let this item come before you without expressing important factual information. I believe you need to know before making a decision on this matter. I am not sure why the city manager wants to remove Jeff Shaw, myself, from our positions. Collectively, we represent 24 years of experience in the Plymouth Public Works Department, 24 years of committed service, city investing, training, and supporting this community. This is how we are thanked for our service, how the city chooses to use this investment in training. Since the city manager started here in November of 22, she has terminated 5 employees and eliminated 1 position already. Now she wants to eliminate 2 more positions, which will give the city a 67% turnover rate for the city manager. Unbelievable. Unbelievable number and a red flag. The term position is used to take the actual employee effective out of the term. The term position is used to take the actual employee effect out of the equation. But we all know behind each position stands a dedicated employee. I'm not a speaker, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That's all good.
Lost my thought. Now she wants to eliminate 2 more positions, which will give the city 67% turnover rate for the city manager. Unbelievable, okay. The term position is used to take the actual employee effect out of the equation, but we all know behind each position stands a dedicated employee. Each time we lose a staff member, they are replaced by a younger, less qualified person, typically a family member of another staff member. Half of your staff are related to each other. They are considered untouchable due to their outside of work relations with the city manager. If I have a problem, I should be able to speak with our human resource person.
What if the problem is with human resource child or nephew? Some of these family members are in direct reporting relations with their own family. This is in complete disregard to the City of Plymouth Personal Manual 12/18/2024, page 3, 2.03, employment of relatives. Therefore, I would like to request that the city hire an outside independent company to investigate. The investigation should be focused on hiring and firing practices, age discrimination, favoritism, and nepotism. I would also like them to investigate salary discrepancies. I believe without thorough understanding, such an investigation could provide the city will continue to be at risk of liability for failing to follow accountable legal HR practices and procedures. As staff, we are always told we are at will employees, but we are still protected by the labor laws and share the rights of every California worker. And I'd like to add one more thing. I know one person that would like to keep me. That would be Boone, my newest supervisor. He has seen me work and has seen the results of my work, and I have pictures to prove it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well,
Mark, I don't wanna say that I understand how difficult this was for you,
It's very difficult.
and I appreciate you. So thank you for that.
I work very hard here. And I put 17 hard working years into this place. And you know, I don't think I should be ousted. Ask Boone how I work. That's the guy you just hired. Ask him how I work. You know, why should I have to go? And no job has ever been offered to me as a maintenance lead, but yet they put somebody off the street.
Can I ask you one question that's improper? You're listed as a part-time employee. Did you wish to be a part-time employee or you always have?
Nobody has ever asked me for a full-time position.
I
I was hired as a part-time employee.
In 17 years, you've always been a part-time employee?
Yes, sir.
He always worked extra when they needed.
So how many hours a week do you normally?
Now, to be honest with you, in the beginning, I worked a lot of 40 hours a week. Because, they liked me, they didn't have to pay me benefits, and I was willing to come in and work. I worked a lot of 40 hours.
thank you.
Very dedicated to this city.
Thank you very much. I know I've been around for a long time. Thank you.
Just one thing.
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah, no comment, everybody come up.
I thought that they were supposed to hire relatives.
This is the first time hearing about any of this. I think that's the case for most of the council.
Same.
How would you not know that?
I got fired because of it.
So,
And replaced.
so that it's clear,
I got fired for something else. Evidence.
so that it's clear,
You're up.
And I'd like to say one thing, you need to look into that. Because this man did nothing wrong, and he has proof.
So for
You
starters,
need to look into
if
it.
somebody has a comment, please say it at the microphone so everybody online can also hear it, rather than shouting from the audience.
I'm sorry, a little worked up, but yes, you need to look into what Curtis Cantwell said. You need to look into it. He has proof that he did not spray in the ditch. So you need to look into it.
Yeah.
He was fired wrongfully.
Nobody called for it from the residents.
wait, okay, if you guys, we want to hear.
This is the ball, no, we gotta stop this. No, we have to stop this.
He actually can't talk yet.
You can talk to us, come on up and talk.
But you can't talk in the back.
Yeah,
We
we
have
can't talk in
to
the
do
back.
3 minutes. The thing is, we have to keep it somewhat organized.
I just wanna put for the record as well, that I got a lot of compliments from the residents, they're not a few residents, many residents, like half the town. She knows it, she didn't care, she fired me because someone said she said I sprayed the area, wasn't supposed to spray, she accused me of never following directions.
This is also not related to the agenda item that we're on right now.
Yeah.
I worked just as hard to follow directions
We have-
than I did work itself.
Okay, but you have to come back to the focus, we're not talking about that.
ask that, so.
Well, we were talking about eliminating.
Yeah.
two part-time positions.
I understand, but that's a separate issue.
Somebody that's wrong.
Robert Moody, a lot of you guys know me. Been at Fairgrounds 20 years. I was asked to put in for that new job. Looked at the job description and made me unqualified. And I'm very qualified. The new guy that got the job is not qualified. But I know, I had a nice talk with him, he's a good guy. But this has been going on a long time. The way that the city treats the maintenance guys, I've known these guys for years. And I just have to say my piece.
Yes, Mark's done a great job, so I know.
Thank you, Robert.
Forever and ever.
Marina Moody, Plymouth.
Hold the mic down.
You pull mic down.
Okay.
Thank you.
They
Make
can't
me
hear,
feel short.
they can't hear you.
I want to ask a question about the maintenance staff. Is there any seniority as far as this repositioning? I mean, it seems odd to me because in most agencies, it's the junior people that get let go, not the senior employees. And I mean, that happens in many, many businesses and government agencies and all. And I'm just curious if they're restructuring, why they're getting rid of the senior people and not the junior ones that were hired way after that. I'm just curious. I mean, it just seems to me there's something odd with that policy.
I can answer that question for you. That came at the recommendation of the new public works superintendent.
And why would that be? He's brand new, why would he?
Because he's out in the field working with the employees, and that was his recommendation.
His recommendation was to get rid of the senior people and keep the juniors?
That was his recommendation.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it was.
Okay, well, there's a lot of ramifications to that, but beside that, I have another question on here regarding this reclassification of the Public Works Director position. The last line says, once approved, this particular change would not take effect immediately, but would be implemented when appropriate in regards to current department staffing. My question is, why isn't there a time frame on this? Because this can go unnoticed for years and that person's wage never comes down. And we've seen that happen in the city of Plymouth over the years, different councils and all. So I'm curious on why there's not a time frame that this person is not going, if they're going down to a different position, why isn't their wage gonna be done appropriately when they take over the new position? If you hired a new supervisor, you're saying that you need this analyst, so why is it not taking effect immediately? That's my question.
Andreas, I think you should answer that.
Can't answer that question, right?
Thank you.
There.
Any other public comment?
Yeah.
Rick on.
But I am speaking as a private resident in Oxview. And I am also the treasurer, but right now I'm wearing my personal hat. I just am going to say Mark gave us our first dollar bill in our business. That's just a very personal thing between me and him. And for our winery. And I would like to see what led up to this, if it was a complaint online or what happened to what person triggered this online. And see what he was spraying and stuff like that, because I no longer have my DPR card, my brown card, but I sure do have my knowledge of it. And I just like to see what led up to it. So that's just a personal thing for me, right? Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment.
Anything online?
Go
Anything online?
Online or anything comments?
My question is in relation to the cost savings that you proposed. Margaret?
Can you hold on for just a minute? I'm sorry.
No, my question was in regards to the proposed cost savings. You're saying $15,000 a month. Does that include hours, the cost of our staff? Is that part of the savings? So is it 15,000 minus or before?
That is the savings from AWA.
That's what we pay them.
That's what we're paying AWA right now to operate the plant.
And what would we be paying our person?
So the savings, the salary savings for us would be $92.80. But the increase would be the $1,500 for benefits. So it's a net loss in savings there, but we have the cost savings in salary. Thank you. In the reclassification of the director position of up to $2,781 a month.
Right, yeah, I see the rate's 1708 to 2780.
Right.
Okay, so even with the benefit costs up to, I'm gonna round up to $2,000. So we're still gonna be saving 13 a month.
Correct.
Minus, I mean, on top of that would be their salary.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this, I'm all for having our own plant operator. And definitely need that. That's one thing that I know some started talking about a few months ago when I saw how much we were spending there. And I thought it was ridiculous we were doing that. I didn't know all of the history and background of why we got in that position. And the one thing that I was actually gonna bring up later tonight, that as far as future agenda items is going to be, and since it ties into this, I will say that, you know, based on our budget workshop, and we're $103,000 negative this year, I believe, what's the number? Will be $180,000 next year. One thing I was going to propose to council was going to be a hiring freeze to include promotions and transfers and everything else. And I look at this and I'm thinking, if we got by in the past with one person who was director of public works and doing everything, now's not the time maybe to add an analyst position in. I think that we have to make cuts, they're gonna be painful cuts. And we need to get our budget in the black. That needs to be number one, in my opinion. So I'm for the part of this of hiring our own plant operator. I'm definitely not for an analyst position. And I kind of have the same question that was brought up, is if we were looking at another employee transferring into that analyst position, what's that person doing now? My question.
Right now, that person's the director of public works.
So we have a superintendent that we just hired, I understand what he's doing.
Correct.
So I'm just asking, why do we need both the director and the superintendent?
We don't, that's what this is.
I know, it's moving, so we only have just the new hired person handling the public work stuff, and you're saying that we're gonna have an analyst also to help with that. Am I misunderstanding?
Right, the council asked that the new public works superintendent and I evaluate what kind of office help he would need. And so since he's been here, he's done that and he needs the assistance of it was going to be a management analyst position, and he's determined that he only would need an admin analyst to do the reporting and the office stuff that a department head would normally need. There's a lot of technical reports that Public Works has to file. And there's no way that a superintendent can do that and still go out and supervise in the field.
Can I interject something?
Yes.
At the risk of getting canceled, an administrative analyst is a secretary. That's essentially, it's an administrative assistant. That's basically what that position is, am I right?
It's a technical.
It is, but it's paper pushing, right? You're doing paperwork. You're not out in the field, correct?
Correct, you're in the office doing.
You're in the office, you're doing paperwork. So I was an administrative assistant for 10 years. So that was my job, to answer phone calls, push paper, and so that's essentially what that is. I can't imagine a position in a city with like a superintendent that wouldn't have an assistant. That to me doesn't seem feasible.
What would the salary of this position be? What would we be looking at if the analyst position?
And is it part-time or FTE?
Full-time, yeah.
It's a full FTE.
For the salary.
Apologize, I do not have that in my in my papers.
Can you bring it to the next council meeting, or even let us know via email that allow?
I'll try to make a decision on tonight, not knowing a number. But we've definitely got to.
Yeah, get it over and then come right back.
Yeah. Oh, I'm curious, so is our former public works superintendent, like one of the soldiers, but did he have an assistant? That worked for him?
He had the director position. It was Selby and the director position. It was the two of them.
Because I always remember seeing him out in the field doing stuff.
Yeah, Sylvie was, the
Kathleen
public works
took care of it.
director was his essentially assistant, yeah.
Probably miss.
Okay, I'm trying to get our all straight here. Sure.
This must be last.
Okay, I have a couple questions, Margaret. Are we gonna tell us the salary?
The salary range for the analyst is 4978 to 6051.
And what was the director position?
6384 to 7760.
Okay, so it's less. Okay, I have a couple of questions. And I'm just gonna throw these things out there and we can discuss them. Leave to my fellow council members. First, I wanna thank all of you for being here and speaking your mind and your voice. So I think that's really important. And it's always nice to have audience. So, my first question would be, I'm having a hard time reconciling. I'm assuming the two part-time employees did not or do not do, they don't have, the water treatment thing. They're not gonna operate the waste, the wastewater stuff, correct? Or they haven't. Correct. Okay, so having a hard time reconciling how we remove two part-time essentially laborers or workers, and we bring on what is the name of the position, an operating,
Wastewater treatment plant.
thank you. In my mind, that wastewater treatment plant operator is gonna be doing a completely different function than those two part-time employees. Those two part-time employees to me would be participating in the day-to-day functions of keeping the city moving and doing all the ins and outs of public works. And that other person would be dedicated fully to the wastewater treatment plant. So for me, I'm having a hard time with the thought of let's eliminate these two maintenance worker positions and add a chief wastewater treatment, because that person isn't gonna do the same function. Does that make sense?
Yes, so you're talking one person 4 days a week. Because each of the part-time people work 2 days each.
Okay,
And the superintendent has determined that he can do without that person. He can do without that one body for those 4 days. And that's how he decided that the part-time people could be eliminated.
So it comes out to be a budgetary decision on his part then?
It was. It was part. I'm not fully aware of what came to his decision. How he explained it to me is he could do without the body 4 days a week.
Why isn't he here?
yeah, I actually was about to ask
Yeah, that's a
why he's
question.
not here.
Yeah, and
Cause I would like to ask him some questions, this is kind of his ballpark, his wheelhouse, he's in charge of the whole thing, so I mean, I know you're over the entire staff, but he's ultimately in charge of public works. So, and then, so that was that question, I'm not necessarily satisfied with that answer, but I appreciate the answer. And then, as far as the reclassification goes, has he determined that he doesn't need public works director and that he would be satisfied with an analyst position?
Yes, with the admin analyst position.
Okay. Okay, Rusty, you got anything?
Yeah, it's been a few meetings ago, but the public works superintendent was described as working 20 hours in the field, 20 hours in the office. Has that now changed?
Yes, he's more than 20 hours out in the field right now.
is that a seasonal change or can it be a seasonal change or how does that affect him? Whether or not he's on the field or level of project or, yeah.
Right now, he's trying to determine everything that needs to be done out there, and he's making his list of all the different projects that need to be taken care of. And he is trying to get a picture of the way the employees work, how they work, what their work production is.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. The lead maintenance worker, is he 100% in the field or has he got all this time too?
He has maybe 8 hours of office time to do paperwork, and that's just a couple hours each day. And I just want to point out that those two positions were interviewed by the Public Works Director from Placerville and the Public Works Director from Folsom.
You weren't on those interviews at all?
I was in the room, but I did not participate in the rating.
So while we're talking about different things here, how's the operator and training going? Is it progressing well?
It's progressing slowly. But it is progressing.
So I have a tough time with the admin analyst. I know they need help with paperwork, and whatnot. Lord knows we have a ton of it where I work. But I'm having a tough time because we need to make cuts. We're talking about raising water rates. City's gotta make some cuts too. I know the two part-time jobs are up and whatnot, but, and as of now, I can't get behind the admin analyst position. And the other thing is, I'd like council, you know, Frank or his group to look at the manual and to make sure, the employee manual, make sure we're all copacetic and it's being followed. Or we can review it. Or
We're taking notes on that, we'll look into it.
Alright. And can we get a report or something for, let's see, where we May or June, the first meeting in June or something like that, or we're into May?
We'll work on taking a look and figure out what
Okay.
format would be appropriate and when. Time wise. We'll make it a priority to get you answers on that one.
I don't know if Chris, you were done.
Oh.
Oh, your mic, I didn't know if you were done.
Yep.
I have a couple of questions. How many maintenance workers under Boone? How many people do we have working the maintenance department right now, as of right today?
We just had that info.
Okay,
Yeah. In the budget.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I missed tonight, did we talk about?
3 full-time, 2 part-time currently.
Okay,
Separate from the superintendent.
Separate,
there's two,
separate from the top 2.
Okay.
so top two, so we have 5 plus 2 part-times.
Right, you have the superintendent, the lead. 3 maintenance, 2, the operator in training, and the 2 part-time. Let me write the names down, Don.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit confusing. The other concern I have right now coming on the fuels mitigation, cutting out these part-time positions. Those are positions I would understand probably aren't receiving benefits, so we save on those positions. With all the reading and everything else to be done, are we gonna be able, figure out those positions? Are we able to keep up with this? Because there's been a lot of work around now.
We just cut out probably at least a third of the weed eating with the piece of equipment that the lead worker found that goes
Oh,
behind.
yeah, that's right, I remember talking about that, it's like,
Yeah.
or whatever.
It was a pull behind mower that fixed the quad in the.
Yeah, I would also wonder that would the public works superintendent really need someone full-time working for him, doing this as analyst? And also, could we just change his schedule and pay scale, say, it's something to think about, where he's compensated to work a couple extra hours a day and do his paperwork himself or something? I'd rather pay him a little bit more than pay for a whole other person. And I'm with Rusty on this one. I'd like to see the residents, this is the neatest thing, we have to make cuts, like I was saying earlier. So I don't know if we table this or what, but I'm not really in favor of moving forward on it tonight until we have more questions answered.
I feel the same way.
I feel the same way.
The other item I wanted to bring up is, when public works is being talked about, what's going on, I'd like to maybe see the director in here at our meeting, so you can answer questions.
The superintendent.
Yeah, superintendent.
I'm sorry, I was on the phone when he left, I couldn't catch him.
Right, so I think we're gonna table this.
Can I throw one thing in? With,
throw away.
thank you. We're talking about the cost savings overall with AWA and this and that and the other, so we would have a good chunk of money a month that we're saving essentially, correct? Hence why we're all doing this, certification, et cetera. Can we use some of that money to support our low income people with the increased water rates, and is it a possibility? Water and sewer, no?
No, it has to come to the low rate, the low income and stuff has to come out of the non-tax paying. It has to come out of the general fund,
Okay.
basically.
Thank you, just.
Right, I think you got a motion.
Okay, so this will come back in June,
When's our next meeting?
June 12th.
We don't have another May meeting?
We should have one in May.
We do not have one in May. I will be out of town.
Didn't know we were meeting yet.
I'm sorry, I said in June,
12th.
thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to council staff communications, brief reports on matters of general interest, city manager's report.
The Zinfandel Ridge RFP proposals were due today. Out of the 3 firms that did the mandatory walk, all 3 firms responded. So we got the three proposals today. So that was good. They'll be evaluated. Matt Ospital and I had a conversation today that we thought maybe we would take out the rate page and have members of the HOA review the proposals and see who they liked and make a recommendation to Matt and I.
Are they similar in
They're
money?
pretty close.
Okay, thank you.
They're within a couple thousand of each other. And so we thought that would be a good gesture from the city to the HOA. And that's all I have today. Thanks.
Very good. Mayor and council members reports, any reports? Trustee.
I got one from the transportation committee or the board that I sit on. It was informed today by Sacramento DOT that their board voted to not renew the Sacramento commuter route with Amador Transit due to budgetary constraints. The amended contract ends June 30th, 2025. The Amador Transit must inform the public of this cancellation as soon as possible by posting public notice in the paper, announcing it on their website and in all the buses. The sooner commuters know about this route cancellation, the better for them. Maggie was respectively informing us of the route cancellation, so you'll start seeing information come out about the commuter route being canceled by Sacramento DOT. The other thing, the Zinfandel Ridge Ad Hoc Committee, they still haven't formed a committee as of yet. Holder might have heard something different, but we're still waiting on them to get a committee together. That's it for me.
Rusty and I met with, as an ad hoc committee representatives with the Zinfandel Ridge. Well, I can't even say HOA because there's only 2 of them. We were shown what I'm gonna call a wish list. Would you correct me, Rusty, or?
No, that was a good wish list.
It's a wish list which I shared with city manager, Margaret, and, we're really just waiting to get together again.
Yeah, the parting words was get the committee formed and so we can get an agenda put together to set a meeting so Margaret and the city can attend too, so everybody's there at the same table. And we haven't heard yet if they formed a committee.
That's it.
All right. Anyone else?
Oh, reports, no.
Future agenda items.
I would love to see A closed session on staffing.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too.
Rusty?
In case you need a third head nod, I agree.
And I agree.
Hey, I don't know if this was for a agenda item or not, please correct me, but when we had our budgetary meeting last week, the 30th, every day is running together for me right now. We were talking about a reserve, and I don't know if that's gonna come back up in another budget meeting or whatnot, of how to build the reserves up. And that was the only thing I'd like to either add to the agenda or at least make sure it comes up to in when we're doing the budget work.
We probably in our budget stuff. Our treasurer should be able to comment on that, no?
No.
That will typically come up anytime when the finance director comes back with the budget.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Can the question be directed to staff, or is it something you really need to say?
He's struggling.
It's actually.
The structure was palpable.
I noticed that Sutter Creek, it's a 4.6% return. And I think we're getting 3.6, so I'm gonna talk to Vicky over there. And see if we can help him make a little more money or something, I don't know, see what we can do to serve the account. We can buy some Apple stock out.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, I have a few things actually I'd like to put on future agenda, not too very far out. Start with, I'd like us to talk about and possibly vote on reinstating Zoom access to all of our public meetings.
I'll agree with that.
If you can make it safe and secure, 100%
People are still getting
on board.
on the daily.
The county hour is doing it, the board of supervisors is still offering it from what I can see, and I'm in cities all over everywhere, and I've been told that there's been safeguards put in place now from when there was previous problems. That might not be 100%, but I think I've been asked by many members of the public about this actually. It's come up, I think that this is what people want, I think we should try it again. So we can put a place there. So three of us agree to that, I guess we'll have a discussion on that, and we can get public input on it, you know.
I'm all for it, I'm just a little
Yeah.
shell shocked from my previous employer where I ran the board and I let people in, I would have to kick people out, so again, I'm all for it. Let's make it work, let's ask all the other entities maybe what they're doing and
Make it happen.
You should have been here the night that happened.
I'm
Two
good.
nights, it happened 2 nights.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
That's right.
And I talked to a lot of.
And it's happened locally recently.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of other entities are using it, and unless there's another platform out there I don't know about, I mean, if somebody knows another platform like it, then I'm all ears.
Why not just call in, like a teleconference in?
We talked about doing that, I think the one, when you were talking that night, you were talking about going one meeting a month, and everybody told us it didn't work out, they tried it in the past, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I have a couple more on here, so it sounds like we're agreed on that one. I'd also like to have a discussion and input, on what the issue seems to be with, City Hall being closed on Fridays. I'd like to see it open all day on Fridays. I know we've talked about going half day. I think the public wants it open all day, 5 days a week. I think Sutter Creek does 4 days, but the other cities are all at 5 days, keeping regular hours. I'd like to have a discussion on it, and we could hear both sides of it, why we should or shouldn't, but I would like to see it. I know a lot of members of the public want to see it. So.
I'll give the head nod on having the discussion on that with,
heading on to discussion as well.
did you? I don't know if it's.
Just so, I just wanna make sure the council knows, my contract has me off on Fridays, so I would not be here
Yeah,
unless
I
you wanna
totally understand that.
open my contract.
Yeah, no, well, I understand that.
I have one employee that has their hours changed, so they're not here on Fridays, which means I don't have a finance person here on Friday afternoons. So that means people can't make a water payment on Friday afternoons. And that's why at the last meeting, I suggested only half a day on Friday, because that means people can't come in and do anything in finance.
Right, and they would, I think would.
And so that's why I suggested half day.
And so if we have a discussion on it, then if we have a chance to talk about it back and forth, I just think we shouldn't be having a discussion now, because we need to allow for public input on it. And so it'd be something to put on the agenda, and all those points can be brought up and made, you know, when we have a public hearing on it. So there's that one,
Did you get the 3 head nod? Okay.
okay. The other one I already brought up is in light of our recent budget workshop, I would like us to consider a partial, somewhat of a hiring freeze. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't hire anybody if we had to. It would mean that the council, any hirings would need to come before the council, any promotions need to come before the council. We need to decide until we can get back in the black. I think that that's something we need to consider for putting on. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think that until we get figured out, we're projected to be down $180,000 next year.
Forgive my ignorance. Are we even allowed to do that?
It gets a little tricky with the city manager form of government.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it gets very sticky.
That's
Well,
what
I think council can give approval of whether or not we're hiring, bringing any more employees on or not, though, when we're basically in a deficit.
we talk about what sort of positions to fund. That's basically
Yeah.
It,
where that comes from. That
Well, then I'm for having a discussion on that and getting input.
Will we do that?
that'd be part of the budgeting
I was
process.
gonna say,
Yeah.
aren't we gonna do that during the budget?
Yeah.
When is our next budget thing?
June 12th.
Oh, which is our next meeting?
Okay.
Okay, cool. That takes care of that one.
All right, and another one, just trans.
I'm about ready to bust up here. Come on, dude, spit it out. Let's go.
The transparency wise, it sounds like we get a lot of PRAs coming in. I'd like to see some way that we put those in the consent calendar or something. Somehow for the public to be aware of what PRAs come in, the request from who for what.
What?
Public Records Act requests when they come in made public.
Interesting.
Andreas? Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's the thing. Public Records Act requests are themselves public records.
Yeah. I would just like to see us putting it in my agenda packet or whatever, or in the consent calendar, just to notify the public this is what, and it lets the public see how much the city staff has to deal with too, you know, how many of these things come in. Who's requesting what, I think it's just adds to the transparency.
And then the potential expense
Yeah.
to the city.
Yeah, I just think that everybody has a right to know who's, like I said, it's a public record. And so I would like to see that added to have a discussion on adding that either to our consent calendar or whatever for the next, you know, in the future.
Are you wanting to see the records as well, or just the request?
the request.
Just, no, not the records, yeah, just the request, this many requests came in, this, not the request for this from this entity, a request for that, and just listen.
We can just make that
The time and cost of each.
I was just saying time and cost, I have that in there too, so that way there's a record of kind of what the tracking of that is.
That one, and, I have one other, a couple of city council policies.
Okay, you only get 2 a meeting.
Well, you know what, I'm using my credits from all the meetings where I said nothing this time. Okay, 5 credits, so that, I want a discussion on some of the city council policies, there's 3 in particular. City council policy number, I believe it's 005. Which is policy on city council city attorney communication policy. I wanna go over that. And, what was the other one? Policy number 9, designation officers, and number 21. Council meeting agenda, and the reason I wanna go over that one is generally we don't have very many people showing up, but as we saw evidence of tonight, that we hold people to 3 minutes on their public comments. I think with as few people show up and give public comment, I think it should be increased to 5 minutes, because we have a lot of people go slightly over, go to 4 minutes, whatever. I don't think, there's been times when people 3 minutes just didn't quite get it. I don't think going to allow them for 5 minutes would be an issue. So those 3 policies I would like to have some discussion on.
So that's second head nod. The other case.
I'm happy to discuss that, yes.
You go?
Yep. Well, there will be more, but I'll wait for tonight here and just because.
Wait, people have finished trophies are done.
I thought you already had yours.
No.
No, okay, sorry. My bad,
Rusty has it. No. Okay.
my bad.
Okay, I actually just need I have a couple questions. I don't know if they need to be an agenda item, you can tell me if they do. I'd like an update on the Village Ranch project. What is the status of that? I know what it says in your briefing, that it's incomplete, but what does that really mean? And what are we looking at for possibly getting that going?
I'm nodding heavily.
Yeah, make that an item, I think.
Okay, let's make it an item. And then,
A third nod?
oh.
Yeah.
A third
Can I do a
nod.
third nod?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
And then I was wondering, I saw a notice on the building down the way here across the street. Can you share what's going into that building?
So they have a family style restaurant up front and a sports bar in the back.
Okay.
And the notice you saw on the front was for a conditional use permit for the alcohol,
Okay,
right?
ABC first.
Yeah, for a restaurant and bar.
okay, and that's this one.
That's what I'm across.
Okay, and how long are we looking at a time frame for them to get opened up and going? Let me rephrase my question. What is the city doing to expedite their ability to get into that building as fast as possible?
Their conditional use permit hearing is on the 15th.
Of this,
Next week.
Next week, okay, good job, and then,
What's the timeline after that?
yeah, well, thanks, Wilbur, good way to have my 6.
That'll be up to them.
We don't have any process after that. There's nothing left they need to do for us.
So once they get that permit, good to go.
Well, they wanna build a deck on the back, they just have to go through the permit process to build the deck
But they
and
can
have that
still
inspected,
open
but they
the
can
other
still
part.
open the rest.
Okay, great.
They have to go through their ABC licensing and those.
Yeah, that's
Right.
in 90 days.
Yeah, nothing we can do about ABC.
Yeah, there's have to get an encroachment permit. There's things that they have to do.
What is the encroachment permit for?
Because they have sidewalk dining, they wanna have sidewalk seating.
It's
and
kind of
so-
basically like a Star Garden.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the timeline on something like that?
And that's noticing and I think there's a,
Shouldn't it have been grandfathered in because it was already existing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know that.
okay, and we,
I just know
Let's work on that.
yeah,
Let's
do
work
everything we
on that.
can to cut down on, make it expedient as possible.
Let's work on that.
And then what about down at the Bruce building? What's going in there? Cause I walked by there and they were putting in new floors and he said it was like a pizza something, is that?
It's a-
Pizza with beer and wine.
Cool, so what's their timeline and what are we doing to expedite their situation?
We don't have an application from them yet.
Oh, okay. So we're just kind of waiting to hear more.
We don't have an application for them for what?
For a use permit.
For a CUP for their beer and wine.
Do we have a building permit for all the work they're doing?
No, we've asked and they've not complied.
Well, I would say that you need, that's a health and safety issue. Cause there's electrical and other things in there.
Are they? I thought they're just doing
No,
flooring.
they built walls,
Those walls were already in there
not
before
the,
they
not the
started.
ones I saw that are in there. They put the new pizza oven in, they did a lot of stuff. That place needed to be gutted.
I wonder if there's a way to get those two entities together,
But to,
pizza in here.
What? Clemens too.
Well, maybe agree.
We've been in communication with Mr. Morse.
Yeah,
We're just not getting much far.
that's.
that's what I'm saying, like maybe like an eye to eye with, like a meeting would expedite things.
Well, it doesn't sound like he needs anything from us, does he?
You know who it is. Okay, so the status of that is application hasn't been put in yet. And we're just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, and anything that the city can do to help out and
Yes.
expedite it.
Yes,
by all means.
for sure.
We will.
Okay, that was it.
Rusty? Okay. All right, meeting adjourned.
That 9:50.